We have 4 very diverse individuals and businesses represented here. Our topic is to take a look at some of the challenges associated with managing a mixed product portfolio. So in other words, we're going to be looking at what OTT delivers by way of a product extension to the pay TV mix and how that works with traditional consumer premises equipment-based TV products. So, to get the ball rolling, let's work our way down the panel, and we're going to ask each of our panelists to briefly say who on earth they are. We know who Simon is. And then just to give us a perspective on an opening question. What do you see as the big OTT diversification opportunities for pay TV operators? And really, how attractive are they? So, Simon.
Can I skip the intro?
Skip the intro. We've done that. We know who you are.
I think the OTT opportunity for pay television, if we're talking true OTT, so it looks like something other than the service they're already offering, so not multi-screen, I think it is to emulate the fast movers, because consumers are seeing that, they're attracted to that. So I think it's emulating its experimentation and then see.
So you're thinking a la fast movers as in Netflix, you're thinking standalone,
and we've
completely
seen that
unbundled.
A bit with Dish TV, we've seen it in the UK with Now TV, so I think that's if you've got the rights, I think it's an opportunity to explore if you're a pay TV provider.
Okay, moving on. Alejandro?
Alejandro Casal, working at KPN, responsible for the innovation team. And so, I think, what Simon says is correct. I also see from the OTT side, we see also was mentioned before in the session from Sky about segmentation. So with different group of customers who have different needs. So not everybody may need the traditional set-top box. We see more and more customers moving to all kind of devices to enjoy TV. And so we see there an opportunity from the OTT world to learn from that and also apply that also to our own case.
And do you see that as a fairly attractive opportunity, given what you've done and experimented with to date?
Yeah, well, actually, we launched a product, I think October, November last year, which is called KPN Play. It was also in the slides before. So, we see that there is a demand, so we decided to launch this product, and so far it seems to be successful.
Fantastic. Stephanie?
Stephanie Rockman. I head up the content and media division at Proximus, which is it's a telco, national telco in Belgium. We love OTTs. We see ourselves as an aggregator of content. Our core business is connecting people with what matters to them, and content is definitely a big piece of that. So we love OTTs. We integrated Netflix into our set-top box last year, which has really proven to be a fantastic experience. It's needless, it's seamless, it's exactly the type of service we want to offer our customers. Alongside that, we also run our own content play, but the idea being that it needs to be complementary, that it needs to be very well positioned, because the danger, of course, with OTT is you don't have access to all the data of what people actually do and how they behave. And we do consider that it's very important that we actually follow those trends and really understand what customers want and how they consume content and what matters to them.
And you're very explicitly offering your OTT product as a bundle with your broadband product.
Oh, absolutely.
So I can't buy it unbundled or standalone.
No, we're a fully convergent operator. I mean, it's interesting to see in the UK convergence is a big subject right now. Sure. We've been doing that for almost a decade, and TV Everywhere, for instance, has been around since 2011. But yeah, you need to be one of our consumers. Again, what we're looking to offer here is not selling a content play. What we're aiming to doing is bringing an experience to the customer, and that experience, I think you really summed it up really nicely in one of your slides. It's all about customers don't really care inside of the home, out there, mobile and fixed. I mean, all of these terms are really moving away. It's all about consuming what you want, when you want, and wherever you want. And I think that's our mission in life, is to make that happen.
This is the warm, friendly panel. Daniel, what's your perspective? What is the big opportunity for pay TV operators? How attractive is it really?
Hello, Daniel Hasselbart from Unity Media, Cologne-based cable operator in Germany. We're part of the Liberty Global family. And I think well, I don't want to be too cozy, but I think the answer has been given already by Christian this morning also. It's a great, it's television. OTT is television, and that's a great opportunity for us to expand into that world and bring customers the form of television in the way they want it. It's an opportunity, again, something we saw with you, Simon, to increase customer satisfaction. People that get the content they want and in the place they want are obviously more satisfied with their provider. So that is what we strive to do, and I think we're quite well, actually all of us here are quite well positioned to do that.
So that's a good statement of initial perspectives. Just before we dive into the standalone OTT piece, which I guess is where the action on this panel really is, I just want to pause briefly on TV Everywhere. I think we saw from some of the research earlier that TV Everywhere is now a pretty ubiquitous product for the large majority of TV platform operators. You know, consumers want their content everywhere. It's almost become a hygiene factor. Do you think there are still growth opportunities associated with TV Everywhere? You know, in more genre-specific packages, subscription bolt-ons? You know, has everyone been a bit distracted from really moving forwards with TV Everywhere, or is it kind of pretty settled as a product? The opportunity's there, it's done. Simon?
Not done. I think we're sort of phase one, which was simulcast of stuff to new things. Because, you know, most of the TV proposition was focused on the big screen, as we all know. New stuff arrived, ooh, what do I do about it? And we were simulcasting channels, pretty much. And then I think we have to understand what the consumers do and how do they interact with their content. I think it's pretty clear that started to put the pressure on, not, you know, now I've got all this content at my fingertips, what am I going to do with it? Am I actually going to enjoy using it or not? So I think that's when the experimentation starts. I think this is to my point earlier about the what-if scenarios of which screens am I going to use, why am I going to use them, and has it changed my expectation of how I will consume content? So no, I think there's still a lot more experimentation to happen. With that experimentation comes value creation. With value creation normally comes monetization opportunities. So I think more to come.
Alejandro, is KPN still experimenting with TV Everywhere?
Yeah, sure, we have a proposition for that as well. I think we are not there yet, so there is a lot of things to do over there. I think, yeah, as Simon was saying, I think until now it has been copying the proposition to the set-top box to the TV Everywhere devices. I think we have to go beyond that and explore the benefits of every device to the whole extent. Interaction of every device is very different, so we have to explore that much more. And I think also the interaction with the set-top box, so the companion device effect.
Did you charge extra for it?
Sorry?
Do you charge extra?
No. At the moment, it's as part of the service of the IPTV service.
So it's a kind of churn reduction tool.
Yes.
In a sense. Are you two on the same page? Is it just a churn reduction tool, or are there ARPU growth opportunities specifically associated with TVE?
Well, I think, again, it's going back to also the previous presentations. You know, what is our role as a distributor, specifically in a world where content creators are going directly to the consumer? I think one of the things, you know, and this goes back to who's good at doing what. And the content creators and broadcasters, I think, are extremely strong in building brands and liaising with their audiences. And that is something which, you know, again, that's one of the reasons why we don't see ourselves as a media group and a content creator, because I think we would just suck at that. That's not our core business. What we do know, though, is how to connect with our customers, how to come with an experience that is going to make content relevant. And I think it's all about enhancing that experience. And that is something that I think, as an OTT going direct to the consumer, that is a lot harder to do, because you need to control your network, you know, in terms of quality, you need to control your user interface. All of these things are massively important. And, you know, to speak to the data, people want simplicity. It's, you know, they don't want to have to search in 20 different places for different things. And it's, you know, I find my Danish colleague here very courageous of trying to do what he's going to do, but it's a little bit, because this perception is a hard perception. People have this, and it's like when you ask people what they watch on television, everybody watches documentaries, and when you actually look at the reality, they're all watching reality shows. So you know, between how people feel about stuff and how they behave, there's a real disconnect between that. And, but yeah, you know, I really think that it's our mission to enhance this experience, and TV everywhere is part of the experience. It's, you know, we also integrate it into our service, and we're probably in phase 1.5. We need to go a lot further. We need to mirror the complete experience. It should be that you can carry all of your subscription on any other screen, and there are rights to clear, you know, and let's face it, these rights now become actually the norm, but it's been really hard. I mean, we were one of the first operators to do that. I mean, the resistance you get from content creators to actually give you those rights is phenomenal. When it's actually in their interest for us to enhance and to make this distribution experience smooth. You know, to me, one of the biggest elephant in the room is content creators, you know, being very afraid of what's going to happen with their rights instead of helping distributors making this experience really valuable.
Daniel, very quickly, just to finish up on TV before we move on. Growth opportunity or hygiene factor? Or a bit of both?
More hygiene factor, a bit of both. For us, again, it's very much a satisfaction driver. So we see that customers using our TV Everywhere proposition are more satisfied customers. So it's very clear we need it. We do have it as a standalone option, really, for our customer base. So you don't need a set-top box. You can have only the TV Everywhere proposition. It's not being used that very much. Where we do see some benefits is, for example, pure internet customers than having, let's say, television on the iPad. But again, niche. It's a niche group which we want to explore, though.
Okay. Let's turn and talk a bit about the standalone OTT piece, so the Netflix competitors. I guess just to start, I want to get a sense of where and for whom this is an opportunity. So clearly, when we look at standalone operators to date, most operators are at least dabbling and starting to have a think about this. Very few have yet built up large bases. And there are certainly people who say that the opportunity is quite concentrated in some markets. Markets perhaps like the US, where pay TV has been very expensive, or markets like the UK, France, Germany, where there are a lot of free-to-air households who maybe want something new or different. Do you think standalone OTT is an opportunity, you know, across Europe, or is it quite localized in certain markets? Alejandro?
Yeah, it's a good question. If I'm looking at the Netherlands, we have, I think, a particular situation because all TV is pay TV. We don't have free-to-air. I think in this market there is a clear need for such a product. Maybe in other markets it's different because, well, you have many people just taking the free-to-air and then adding something like Netflix or HBO Go to it. From our market we saw this need for customers to have such as a proposition, and that's the reason why we launched the Play proposition.
Daniel, Liberty is obviously pan-European. What's your perspective?
Well, we don't see ourselves really in, let's say, doing OTT standalone, building up a separate brand. I think there's a lot more than just buying content and having an app on the television before you really can call yourself a standalone OTT operator. However, we do see that the integration of OTT services into our basic services, into our, let's say, classical services, if you want to call it that way, that's very successful. I mean, again, we heard this morning, what was it, 70% of the TV watching or OTT watching starts linear. So that is where we come from. That's where we're actually quite good at, aggregating content, be it linear or be it on demand, and providing the customer or presenting the customer a user interface that has everything under one roof. And the integration is not only on a commercial side, it's very much on a how do you actually present the content to the customer.
So you're seeing, so just to make that real for us, you're seeing standalone OTT as less of a new opportunity, more an extension.
For us, I would say so, yes.
Right.
It is expanding where we're good at, expanding where we come from, actually expanding what our customers expect from us. In particular, in Germany, the market is quite slow in adapting new technologies. Good for us, actually, because we have time to adapt, but we will be using that time.
And Simon, you've just done a big piece of global research. Are there big variations in terms of demand for OTT across the markets you looked at?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm not sure I can speak fairly, actually, to the distribution difference. I mean, I think maybe I have to sum it up in terms of overall trends. I mean, I think OTT is going to happen for two prime reasons. One, because content brands feel the pressure and urge to just get online and globalize their content, full stop. And I think consumers will interact with it more, full stop. So I think those two things are a kind of gravity 2.0. It's sort of unfortunate, but it's going to happen. Now, I don't believe that's also a great experience. So I think it still has to come together, to your point about, we're in the proposition of making a great experience for how to bring that content together and solve that problem for consumers. So I think the fact that OTT will happen isn't going to be as amazing an experience for a consumer as they probably think it's going to be. So I think they like aspects of accessing it. So they like the fact that they can get it on different devices. It's new, it's agile. It also feels like value for money because it's a smaller mini bundle of stuff. The rest of it, I think, hasn't yet evolved because not everything is available on OTT.
Right. So we can't really dive down into the detail market by market. There's just a sense of who that segment is, your Cord Nevers and other groups who are.
Well, I think to your point about is there a commercial opportunity, yes, I think that has a geographical variation based on pay TV penetration, based on traditional values of whether people pay for stuff or not. Particularly most people are used to paying for premium sports, so it will depend on the fact of whether the stuff that's normally paid for goes online.
Right. So give us some insights about the challenges associated as a pay TV business with bringing an OTT product to market. Obviously, it's a new type of technology in many cases. You've got issues about content rights. You may be marketing to a very different audience. Can you give us some insights about the issues you had to think about in terms of bringing these products to market? Why don't we start at the end and work our way down? Daniel?
Well, I mean, there have been technology challenges in the very beginning. I think we're over that now. I think technology is not the problem anymore. It's very much a organizational change that you need to put into place, really into every employee's minds in terms of speed, reaction times, what does the customer expect, how do you have the customer in focus. Again, that's quite a learning curve where we're still on.
Everyone is.
The content negotiation side, I agree. Also, that is something where, let's say, all sides of the industry need to learn, not try to protect and, let's say, keep the stuff with themselves, but see the benefit in partnering and putting stuff on the platform because that is where the customer expects it. So it's this cultural, social change, I would call it,
right.
As the, let's say, well, if you want one thing, which is the biggest challenge, I think it's that.
Stephanie?
Well, I mean, just to make sure that we're talking about the same thing. I mean, like OTT standalone, TV Everywhere is not available as a standalone product. In Belgium, and I think a lot of it has to do with the economics in different countries. Cord cutting is just not an issue in Belgium. I mean, television is worth a whopping €30.50. Why on earth would you cut that? It doesn't make any sense. So, it comes along, and for us, again, unlike Sky, for example, who is there to monetize their content. So there's a real logic in bringing this to the market and increasing their reach. I sell connectivity, so my reach is increasing reach of connectivity. So the fact that it goes together with into a package, into a bundle, makes perfect sense. So like I said before, clearing rights for the. So it's more about making this distinction of instead of fixed mobile inside the home, outside of the home is actually how we define it right now.
And tell us a bit more about that. So because obviously your business covers both now, both areas.
Yes.
Is that new, or has that required a lot of change?
Well, of course. I mean, integrating. I mean, Belgacom historically was the fixed line, telephony provider adding broadband, so you really had one fixed brand, and then Proximus was the mobile network. And we actually just decided last year to rebrand the entire company under one brand and using Proximus, the dynamic, and mobile as the helmet of it all. And yeah, you see that I mean, first of all, the perception and the image that goes along with fixed product is not necessarily a nice image. You know, people, if you hear fixed, you visualize this telephone with the round thing, and it's not at all adapted into the modern world. So, and it's also not what people care about anymore. So, it's not about, if you talk to customers about fixed and mobile, it doesn't mean anything. This is our own lingo. And so we've moved over to what talks to them. It's like, okay, do you need this product inside of your home, or do you need it outside of the home? And the melting of, phone lines, for example, increasingly, people are still keeping a fixed phone line, but it actually, again, it's about being reachable. So the fact that you can, melt your 3G, 4G connection with your fixed phone line it's going to become an evidence in the coming years. So we are gearing up to making this distinction to say, well, whether you're inside of your home or whether you're on the go, you need to be able to make phone calls and access
the content you're off.
Exactly.
So it's been more of a sort of network integration challenge in a sense, more than anything else, and making sure these experiences work seamlessly. Good. Alejandro, what about you then? So you've obviously, as you said, you've got various services in market recently launched. Tell us a bit about the kind of pain points in getting there.
Yeah, so the content was already mentioned, so we also experienced the same pain. Besides that, I think what Stephanie was mentioning is a very good point about we have an IPTV proposition which is targeted to as big as possible footprint in the Netherlands. With our OTT-only proposition, we were intending to target more the millennial group, the young group. So it's very difficult to get rid of this traditional view people have of a telco, the telephone line and the mobile phone. Get rid of that image of a traditional TV operator and have a more fresh image and more young appeal.
And if we look, at pay TV companies experiencing success with OTT, a lot of them have taken the model of setting up a completely different division. The cultural changes are just perceived to be quite significant. So let's keep them separate and then perhaps integrate at a later date. Is that the kind of approach you took?
Yes. We did. It's what Daniel was mentioning, also an organizational change. So we have a dedicated group of people working on this, which is more thinking from an agile perspective. These are different. The target group is different, so we are allowed, or we think we can introduce more frequently new innovations because they are young people, so they are more used to engaging with new features. So I think the organizational point and getting a more fresh image for us were the two main challenges for us.
But on the other hand, you will need those people as a spark to then actually digitize and ignite the entire company.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Same experience here. Content was actually taken out of the consumer business division and became a separate entity together with the group strategy for a number of years, which had the advantage of raising attention, how important content is for a telco, because that took a while. And now actually for the last 2 years, content has been put back into the consumer business division.
Right.
And that, I think, is immensely important because ultimately, if my products and solutions colleagues and my go-to-market marketing colleagues are not fully behind whatever we are aiming at doing, it's pointless. So we all need to fall on the same string. Yeah.
Can I just ask you about...
In terms of challenges, there's one thing we must not forget, and that's advertising. Bringing advertising together, making one currency over the entire, let's say, world of screens, we haven't cracked that yet. We're far away.
When you say advertising, you're thinking about the issues around delivering adverts to consumers across multiple screens, the measurement issues we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
Right.
And having one currency over all screens.
It's a long way away.
That's a super important point, like TV everywhere. One of the things that really needs to happen is we need to be able to measure it. in order to make it relevant. You know, as these screens and as this form of viewing is becoming more and more relevant, you know, in order for broadcasters and content providers to be able to monetize it, we need to help them by measuring it properly.
And it's interesting. I mean, we've been working on some of these measurement issues for a long time, and I have to say, I'm not optimistic that they're getting much better. There's lots of progress being made, but at the same time, the market is becoming more and more complex, and it's getting harder and harder to keep up, I think. Can I just talk quickly about the cannibalization issue? You know, whenever you talk about managing the mixed generation, you know, more diverse portfolios, inevitably, you know, one of the questions pay TV operators ask is, well, am I just driving spin down and churn off my own products? Am I giving people a chance? You know, not all are quite as radical as going fully a la carte, but it's an issue that every pay TV operator who looks at this space is nervous about. How do you manage that issue? How do you avoid just eating your own lunch, so to speak?
You don't.
You don't.
I mean,
You
Netflix,
have to do it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Netflix is a great example. You know, like, so here you are. You can see Netflix is coming, so you have the choice. Either it's a threat, and it will cannibalize your business, of course it does, and it will also eat a lot of your broadband, or you turn it into an opportunity and, you know, make it a real asset that people are happy to be finding on your, as part of your service.
Yeah, we have the same experience at KPN. We also integrated Netflix, and it's actually what people were demanding. So people were watching Netflix anyhow, and they had to attach their Chromecast or their Apple TV, and then besides that, the pay TV set-top box. So, yeah, customers were demanding an integrated solution, and I think that's the real role of an operator, to aggregate and bring together these different content sources in a great user experience.
And price pressure is just a big reality. I mean, there's no getting away from that. There are cheaper alternatives in the market now. We've got 5 minutes left. Should we just put the lights up and see if there are any questions at this point? Does anyone wish to abuse, heckle, probe, ask, prod gently? Yes, I think we've got one at the back. Can't quite see who.
Sophie Garnham from Sky. My main question is really on the distribution angle of your businesses and the fact that you're now, as having TV Anywhere, dependent on having potentially deals with a whole range of different companies, some of which are competitors, some which you can work with easily. I just wondered what you found the challenges of those distribution partnerships were, the extent to which you're engaged in them, and what you think the opportunity is of working with platform operators like PlayStation, Xbox, Samsung, etc.
Great question.
Varying, really. It depends very much on the platform. Some are more cooperative. Some have, let's say, a working model which fits ours better. Others, for example, have in their main focus selling devices. So a bit of fire and forget, not to be unfair, but so which doesn't really, you know, there's not much overlap. So there's not a clear answer to your question, really. In general, I think general answer might be the let's say the opportunity that people see throughout the entire industry are greater than the challenges, and that's why people come together.
Do either of you two have experience of dealing with third-party platforms like PlayStation and the like?
Yeah, well, we recognize the challenge, of course. I think everybody does have it. If you're looking at different Android platforms, iOS, you have to support the whole stuff. So there is a lot of variation there, also with different DRMs, every platform choosing their own DRM solution. So, but as Daniel is saying, I think the benefits of dealing with that are bigger than the issues you are getting.
Should we just turn and look a bit to the future? And in particular, I'd just love to explore a bit more the segmentation models that we're now seeing pay TV operators increasingly bring to market. So Nick from Sky this morning talked about Sky's approach to segmenting the market, a kind of low-price OTT offer, the mid-range offer, and a premium offer. How many more segments do you envisage us being able to layer on top of that, using OTT, you know, as a vehicle for delivering those? Is there lots of additional opportunity, or is there some merit in keeping it simple?
Yeah, I think it's also a challenge. I was listening to the presentation this morning, and when you are segmenting the market and introducing these different propositions, then you also have to maintain them.
Sure.
And so it's you have to be very careful not to segment too much, because otherwise you will get a huge range of different services and propositions you have to maintain. And I don't know if there is a benefit of doing that.
I guess, I mean, most of the pay TV operator products out there at the moment are aggregation products. You know, they offer a sort of range of content. We're just about to start to see things like specialist kids products, sports products, and other things coming into the market. Presumably there's lots of opportunity for really diversifying the product mix, you know, if you want to. It's more flexible than channels, very clearly. Are you seeing with the operators that Ericsson works with?
I think something that fascinates me, this is an adjacent question, I think, or is related to this, is there sell-through to more than the one bill payer? Because when we get into the connected environment and we're on all those devices, will, you know, teenagers that do have money, will they may have a Spotify account already, will they pay for, you know, channels that they're interested in that their parents won't, you know? And I think, is there a greater sell-through opportunity? Is there a greater segmentation in the home even of selling to more than just typically dad and mum that pick up the TV bill?
And you have to assume there is. I mean, there are more individual...
I think there must be, but I don't know where we're at as an industry of exploring that yet, so...
There's an opportunity. How about, do you see more segmentation opportunities out there, more product diversity? Any obvious areas that you would be focusing on or plan to focus on?
Well, I think definitely millennials are really not a group that is being catered for in a smart way right now. You know, they're out there on their own, and it's been difficult, I think, for...
Do they really want to engage with pay TV operator brands?
Maybe not. Maybe not, but...
Well, that's
you
the
know,
generation, they would never call themselves pay TV customers,
Yeah.
but they would still pay for the content.
And they need an internet line, so, and a good one.
Sure.
So,
it's the same, this 22% statistic that we had. The cord nevers don't associate themselves with pay TV at all, but they're paying for a premium OTT.
And also the gaming example we saw this morning. I mean, those people are paying dozens of euros per month for a good gaming experience. And video is for many part of those. Those events are, I mean, they're enormous. They're huge. I like that example very much. I think that, for example, is a target group which currently we are not addressing, let's say, explicitly, implicitly, possibly by high internet speeds, but not to the full potential.
And there is a bit of a schism in the industry about whether you can super serve millennials just by onboarding lots of this content onto your TV platforms, or whether actually it's a whole new product. They don't want to watch on television. They don't want to be in the living room, you know, with parents and whoever else. They want it in a different place, on a different device.
Yeah, it's not just about watching the living room or not, but it's also about being attached to an operator. So our proposition is just over the top. You have students, young people who don't want to be attached to a fixed subscription of KPN, so they are free to go somewhere else and then get our RDT proposition, and that's what they are demanding. So we are offering that.
All right,
I think we have the products. They're there. It's we need to talk to them in a language that actually attracts them.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got 1 minute left, so we probably have time for one final quick question. And if you haven't got one, I'm going to ask one. No? Right, well, let's do a final closing question then. So we've talked a bit around the topic. Peering into your crystal balls, 3 years out, what do you see as looking most different in the OTT space? I thought it was a hard one.
I do think that, I mean, what I see right now is a lot of scattering, you know, a little bit of, I almost want to call it panic movement, you know. I think
we're still in a real experimentation stage.
Well, 5 years ago, you know, everybody was like saying to the broadcasters, guys, you need to become digital, and you need to. So I think they really got that.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot. I mean, if you think 5 years back, the world has really changed, and I think there's been a tremendous reflection on you know, how to set yourself up and where your audience are, and follow your audience, you know, instead of trying to tunnel them down into something. So that has happened, but it's almost the reverse. You know, right now it's shooting into every direction. I think, I hope that 3 years from, did you say 3 or 5? That we're going to come back to realizing what everybody's role is and what everybody's good at, and that we build on those strengths. You know, to me, ultimately, broadcasters and distributors need to work together to continue. Because, I mean, the real threat here is that the value chain of content is going down the drain. Premium rights are going to continue to explode. So how do we balance that? And how do we make sure that the industry can actually still survive and that we continue to watch shows that are expensive and that we love instead of somebody playing the clarinet on a skateboard with their cat?
I think that's a lovely point to end.
But
Daniel?
I would see that. I would see that more optimistic. I think in 3 years' time we will not see a revolution, but we'll see great steps towards, let's say, solving some of the issues we've addressed here. We'll be better in the advertising bit. We'll be better in personalizing user experience. We'll be better in actually understanding our customers and then bringing segmented, right products to them. So I think the world will not have changed entirely, but I think we'll be better in, let's say, presenting to our customers what we do already now.
And presumably we
monetizing it,
just
actually.
won't be talking about OTT. We'll be talking about VR or the next thing. OTT will just be part of the mix.
Yeah, I think also there is a need from OTT. It was funny, the presentation from Thomas. So he's working in the unbundling of the linear TV packages. And I see in the OTT world just the other movement, which is
rebundling.
Rebundling, indeed. Because I was reading in the paper yesterday, so it was, if you want to watch this content, which service do you need to have? So Game of Thrones, you have to be at HBO. House of Cards, of Orange is New Black, you have to be at Netflix. So, yeah, there is a need also for customers. Okay, if I want to watch Game of Thrones and Orange is New Black, but not House of Cards, for instance, there is a need for this. So
I have sat in rooms with senior executives who have, it's the sort of strategy loop. They've disaggregated and then thought, 5 years from now, we go back into the market with a reaggregation play. We can call it pay TV or something like that. Simon, any last final comments on what looks different?
I think we should be careful. So I think in 3 years' time, there will not be a content owner or broadcaster that hasn't gone online.
Yep.
There are powerful internet giants out there that want to be the next generation aggregator. Apple TVs, the others of this world, while all this content is online, they will be in a more leveraged position than the traditional pay TV providers. So it's now the time that we have to solve these problems to delight these consumers, do these things in front of these consumers, because when it is all online, the situation only gets easier for someone else to do a better aggregation service or the search and discovery service. So we have to be careful.
Yeah.
Well, there's a wonderful call to action to end on. Pull your fingers out and get on with it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to our panel.